What happened deep in the Mulembe Nation on 31st December 2021 was that Atwoli and Raila were at Buhungu, and Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula failed to show up at the Mumias complex. How can you announce a wedding and then the bride fails to show up, but then you organize for another bride at the last minute? How does that work? Find out exactly what I mean on this captivating show today. Karibu sana. The truth is, the full political implications and ramifications of Buhungu 2 and the drama that unfolded in Kakamega County on 31st December 2021 has still not fully sunk in, even for supporters of Raila Odinga. You know, this thing happened on the last day of 2021. People are celebrating the new year. People had a lot of other things to think about. Yeah. So much so that to date, nobody has really sat down and properly analyzed what happened. Because what happened, a lot happened. There was too much drama. Yeah, and the impact will echo well beyond August 2022 and the general elections. Let me explain. We all remember clearly, I hope, that there was a lot of noise, a lot of protests before this Buhungu 2 rally. Some people swore that there would be no rally. It would not take place. They would ensure that it didn't take place. Remember that? And then just a handful of days before Buhungu 2, another event was announced within the same county. The finals of the Malala Super Cup. Yeah, a soccer game, a soccer encounter. And the posters came out very clearly telling us that the guest of honor would be Musalia Mudavadi of the NC party. We also told in the same poster that the other guest of honor would be Moses Masika Wetangula, yeah, the boss of Ford Kenya. And so the 31st of December arrived. Buhungu 2 took place. Raila Odinga arrived for the meeting. The host, Francis Atwoli, was there. Now, the Mumia Sports Complex, the two guests of honor did not show up. Now. That was significant. Why didn't they show up? In my view, this was as serious as a wedding being announced and the bride failing to show up. Yeah. And then when the bride fails to show up, the bridegroom is told, usiwe na waswas. Don't worry, this function is going to go ahead. And then what the people who are telling him this do is they invite the hottest chick in the village, the hottest mama in the village. You know, I'm not up to date with slang, so I'm trying my best. They invite the hottest mama to the function. And the wedding ceremony goes ahead as planned. Now wait a minute. How does that happen? The wedding cards have been printed, with so-and-so's name. The cake has been prepared. And then, how on earth do you switch the maid of honor at the last minute? And then she stands in for this other hot chick. Or does the hot chick come with her very own maid of honor? How does this happen? That illustrates the confusion of Mumias. So let us start by breaking down the confusion of Mumias, because that is important, in my view, much more important than even what happened at Buhungu too, politically speaking, and as far as political implications going forward are concerned. Now, just prepare yourselves for this one. Word on the street is that the reason why Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula did not show up was because they had been tricked, and they realized at the 11th hour that it was a trick, and therefore they decided kuhepa mtego wa panya by not showing up, although they were the major guests. They were the guests of honor for this function. Insiders tell us that Moses Wetangula and Musalia Mudavadi were not aware that the deputy president would show up. Now, in my opinion, I may believe that Musalia Mudavadi was not aware, but I am still to be convinced that Bwana Wetangula did not know that DP Ruto would show up. That one, I don't think I will ever be convinced is a fact. And we are told the man who organized all this was Cleophas Malala, the Kakamega senator. Now let us imagine for a minute that things went according to plan, and that Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula turned up and they took their seats. And then suddenly, the helicopter of the deputy president was there, and he showed up for this game. What would have been the political implication? In my opinion, it would have been a big win for the deputy president, because the perception would have been that the Luhya nation, the Mulembe nation, were not united behind Raila Odinga. Why? Because Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula appeared in a parallel meeting with the deputy president, implying that they were leaning towards the deputy president, and therefore the Luhya vote would be divided between Raila Odinga and William Samoei Ruto. That would have been the political perception had that happened. And it is easy to see why the deputy president would have gone into a lot of trouble to organize, to try and choreograph things so that they come out like that. You can easily understand why. Now, of course, when the deputy president's chopper landed at the Mumias Sports Complex, he already knew that Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula were not there. In fact, when that chopper took off to come to Mumias, the deputy president must have known that Musalia and Wetangula were not there. So why did he still come? He came because the perception, supposedly, would still be that the Luhya nation are not together. While Raila has his big meeting at Buhungu, the deputy president is watching a major game with a huge crowd elsewhere in the same county. And other Luhya leaders are with him at that venue. In my opinion, this is clear evidence that the deputy president's camp was very concerned, was very determined to ensure that they would water down as much as possible the Buhungu 2 rally. Why? Because that rally must have had an impact. Logic tells you that you don't water down something that's not major. Yeah, if a fire is not major, there's no need of water. Yeah, you can just stamp it out. But if it is very major, then you make an effort at least to throw a few buckets of water, yeah, to lessen the flame. Yeah, hoping that in the near future, you'll be able to put out the fire completely. That's really what it was. Now let's head to Bukungu. At this massive rally, yeah, because if you compare the crowds at Mumias and the crowds at Bukungu, the message was very clear. In a nutshell, the votes were at Bukungu. Now, the most significant thing that happened at Bukungu, according to several leading political analysts who understand Kenyan politics, yeah, because the problem we have in Kenya today, the problem we have in 2021 and in the run-up to 2022 general elections, is that we have too many people analyzing politics who do not understand Kenyan politics. Most of these analysts that we're taking in, yeah, most of us are taking in every day, think that Kenya is the United States. And too many Kenyans listening to these people believe that what they're saying is true because it makes sense. Can you go to somebody else's house and do something that makes sense in your own house and assume that it must make sense in that other house where you're a visitor? Of course not. Anyway, these people who understand Kenyan politics are saying the most significant thing that happened at Buhungu was the announcement of a new spokesperson for the Mulembe Nation, yeah, the Kakamega governor, His Excellency Oparanya. Now I can hear somebody shooting back and saying, Chris, what are you talking about? He was just appointed the spokesperson. He doesn't have the votes. Who told you he has more votes than UDA in the Mulembe Nation? It means nothing. That appointment means zero. I don't agree. Especially in Kenya's tribal politics. That is not true. And I will tell you why I believe it is not true. Yeah, that in fact, somebody who is appointed a spokesperson at a major rally has a lot of clout. Now, one KANU tactic of President Moi that was very effective, yeah, during his reign was that when he dropped a certain cabinet minister, he would always replace that cabinet minister with their political rival from their constituency. And in those days, that person became the official spokesperson of that particular community, that particular constituency in government in Kenya. Now, while it is true that they did not become the spokesman because they got votes, more votes on the ground, well, that is true, something else would happen. You see, in politics, there is something called controlling the narrative. What it simply means is that you're controlling what people are discussing. And so in those days, this newly appointed cabinet minister goes for an official function and gives an official speech on behalf of the Kenyan government. And then in their remarks, they mention their constituency. Yeah, and they link, yeah, what they're officiating over to their constituency. What do you think their constituents are going to be discussing the next day after reading the newspapers? Huyu mtu wetu jana alisema ukweli. Yeah, this man of ours said the truth. They said this and that and that and that. Meanwhile, the political rival of this newly appointed cabinet minister does not have any platform. Therefore, they cannot even begin to start to hijack the narrative from their rival. How? They don't have a platform. And so if that cabinet minister controls the narrative in this way for a year, even just 6 months, and they do their homework on the ground properly, they get their people on the ground working properly, who do you think will win an election when it comes up? Let me put it this way. It will be very difficult to defeat the man who controlled the political narrative. That's the truth. Fast forward to the present. Boni Khalwale or another politician from the Mulembe Nation gets a chance to speak at a rally hosted by the Deputy President. In the newspapers the next day, on the primetime TV news, who will get coverage? The Deputy President or that particular Luhya leader? The answer is obvious. Meanwhile, at a national forum somewhere, Bwana Oparanya speaks. And it doesn't matter what he says. But whatever he says has clout. Because people on the ground will be saying, huyo ndo mtu anasema ni spokesman wetu. Huyo ndo anaongea kwa niaba yetu. Ebu rudia, alisema nini? Sikusikia vizuri. And even the people who do not think that Oparanya is a suitable spokesperson, they do not support him. Even those people will still comment on what he said. Unaona huyu mtu, ye useless sana. Donawaambia, huyu mtu ajui nini anafanya. Ongeka mtu mwingine spokesperson of the community, kama Musalia. I don't support Oparanya. But meanwhile, who are they speaking about? Who is in the limelight, whether positively or negatively? You know, in the entertainment business, they say, no publicity is bad publicity. Because as long as people are still talking about you, you're relevant. And this will reflect in your bank account. And that should neatly explain to those who have been puzzled about how our local artists are always involved in scandal after scandal. And they don't seem to care. It helps them sell their music. Because they're in the limelight. People are talking about them, even negatively. The same applies to politics. Because the worst thing that can happen to you in politics is when people completely ignore you. The worst thing that can happen in politics is when people are not talking about you. The long and short of what I'm trying to say is that it would seem that the Mulembe Nation is locked with Raila Odinga. It will be an uphill task for the Deputy President to change things in Western Kenya. And of course, we have seen that the Deputy President at the moment has a lot of focus in Western Kenya. On your screens right now, you should be able to see his itinerary. You can see that he has rallies back to back. He is very busy right now and even tomorrow in Western Kenya. Why? Because he's trying to dilute the influence. Because he's trying to throw a few buckets of water into the fire that Raila Odinga has lit. But he has his work cut out for him. That is the truth. Now, in a separate video, I discussed this strategy of the Deputy President in Western Kenya in more detail. Make sure you catch it. As soon as it's ready, there'll be a link in the description area below on this video on YouTube. In politics, anything can happen. I mean, things can be so unpredictable. But as of this minute, it is very clear that the presidential candidate to defeat in Western Kenya is Raila Odinga. You know, there's something very interesting unfolding on the ground, amongst the Mulembe Nation that illustrates very clearly what I've just said. People are saying about Musalia, amesalia. Sijui huyu mwana wa Ingo amesalia wapi. Musalia amesalia. Roughly translated in this context, it means he has been left behind. Whatever Musalia Mudavadi's strategy is, it's going all wrong. Because the worst thing you can do in politics is to be confusing, is to confuse the voters. What do you think voters on the ground are thinking when they know that Musalia had a major function which he failed to attend but was attended by the deputy president? How do you think they're interpreting that? In my opinion, it would have even been better for Musalia Mudavadi to turn up and welcome the deputy president. In my opinion, it is much better than having people say that you left on a flight to Mombasa. Huyo mtu alienda Mombasa, alienda kujifunza kuogelea ama nini? Si ajifunze siasa kwanza. This is what people on the ground are saying. And some of the people talking like this could easily be Musalia Mudavadi supporters. Oh boy. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.